Flávio Bolsonaro, I believe, that he will lose more support as a result of this situation. Why, Andrea Gonçalves? Because it could bring economic and financial losses, and it also puts Brazil in a vulnerable situation, possibly leading to military interventions by the United States. The fact that the United States recognizes Brazil's criminal organizations, Comando Vermelho and PCC, as terrorists. Obviously, they need to be fought. I've already explained this to you. But what Donald Trump did was exactly to open a loophole so that he can intervene in the economy and even intervene militarily. Then many of you asked me in the comments, Andrea, but can't Lula stop this? Can't Lula? It's obvious that Lula will do everything possible to defend our territory, our sovereignty, and so on. But I ask you, who can stop the United States? They are stealing from Venezuela. They're stealing all of Venezuela's oil. They're stealing Venezuela's gold. And nobody does anything. He tried to steal from Iran. Iran has a bomb, Iran fights back, and Iran is resisting. But what is actually happening truly is that the United States is losing its hegemony as the richest country in the world, and so it decided to steal from other countries. And Brazil is a very rich country, rich in everything, in water, in oil, in gold, in rare earths, in brands, in green forests, in everything, in wood. And that's why they use the support of Bolsonaro's supporters, taking advantage of this loophole to launch this measure. Because it won't solve the problem of the Red Command. It won't solve the problem of the PCC here. He will only use this to coerce, to intimidate, to blackmail our country and threaten our sovereignty so he can get what he wants from the Brazilian government. We have a government that resists, which is Lula, who proclaims that Brazil is not anyone's colony, that Brazil is sovereign, but we know the strength of the United States. And if he wants to come in here, he will come in. If he wants to steal, he will steal. If he wants to kill, he will kill. Is he doing this in other? If he wants to kill, is this in reference to other situations? But don't be fooled. What he mainly wants is to use this strategy to intimidate Brazil so that he can get financially and economically what they want. And the Bolsonaro supporters, and Flávio Bolsonaro is one of the leaders helping the United States in this goal of thieves, of institutionalized criminals. That's what Flávio is doing, because if you tell me that Flávio wants to fight the criminal organization, how does he want to fight it? If he has close ties with members of these criminal organizations and he is even under investigation, Flávio is under investigation by the federal police. With this movie situation, with millions of reais that Daniel Vocaro gave him, not to mention the previous situation with the Rachadinha scheme. So how does Flávio want to fight organized crime if he lives within organized crime? With people from organized crime? Flávio is under investigation for organized crime. And now recently, Rodrigo Bacelar was arrested. He's from the same political group as Flávio Bolsonaro. And who are both of them involved with? With the Red Command in Rio de Janeiro. Claudio Castro will be the next to be arrested. Claudio Castro is suspected of several crimes. In fact, he is suspected of being involved with the Comando Vermelho, of having done things to help the Comando Vermelho in Rio de Janeiro. He is a political ally, an ally of Flávio. How does Flávio want to fight these criminal organizations if he is deeply involved with them? So, what he is doing is taking advantage of Trump's interest in stealing from Brazil. For what? To create a smokescreen and cover all of this up. A thief catching a thief, no way around it. A thief helps another thief. Just to give you an idea, Claudio Castro. Claudio Castro, you know you're in deep trouble Soon he will be arrested. The former governor of Rio de Janeiro, political ally of Flávio Bolsonaro. He gave up running for the Senate. Obviously, I've already told you this. He is banned and ineligible. There's no way he can run for the Senate. He's from Brazil. He's with Bolsonaro. But then he announced that he gave up and dropped out. What did the PL do at the same time? The PL is a party of thieves. The PL gave him a salary. They hired Claudio Castro. A salary of 30,000, the same salary that Carlos Bolsonaro is receiving without holding any office. Almost 40,000 reais, actually. 39,000 and some change. The PL started paying Claudio Castro. And just this month, there were 2 federal police operations. The PL is a party of thieves. That's the only way to put it. There's no way, guys. It's all about covering up, covering for each other, protecting each other. Then he gave up. He says he gave up on running for the Senate. Then the PL already brought up 2 more names to replace him. Guess who? The party of thieves says they're going to put someone else there to try for the Senate instead of Claudio Castro, who will be arrested soon. There's no way around it. I believe he's not in jail yet only because the rapporteur is Andre Mendonça. Andre Mendonça is being very slow with the more restrictive interim rulings. Guess who? I'll give you a hint. These 2 last month or the month before, if I'm not mistaken, were targeted in a federal police operation. What happened? 2 federal lawmakers from the PL. One of them had 470,000 hidden in a garbage bag at his house, where he said it was money. Write the name down. You know who it is. Saying that the money was from an apartment he sold. Then it was discovered right after that he hadn't sold the apartment. And the money, 470,000 reais, was hidden in a black garbage bag at his house. Those 2 federal deputies, their assistants, moved almost 30 million reais. The federal police use and investigate. There's an open police investigation and it's under seal. And the suspicion is that they were stealing money from the legislative allowance. Federal deputies and senators have a legislative allowance, office funds, this allowance, that allowance, another allowance, and so on. And the police suspect that they were misusing the legislative allowance. That's why their aides, used as fronts to launder the money, started moving it around, and they moved almost 30 million reais. These 2 who are being investigated in this situation were chosen by the PL, by Valdemar Costa Neto, and by the leadership to replace Claudio Castro, who will soon become an inmate. Sóstenes Cavalcante and Carlos Jordi, everyone. Does that even make sense? Then Flávio Bolsonaro, who's from this party, who's in the party leadership, using public money to support criminals. So they say they want to fight criminal organizations, but they're actually mixed up with criminal organizations themselves.
There's no way. No.
It doesn't add up. It doesn't fly, you know? Political game. Claudio Castro secures a salary of 38,000 with the Liberal Party and opens a law office. Claudio Castro. When he was about to run as a candidate, Flávio Bolsonaro was an advisor. No, Flávio Bolsonaro was a state deputy and Claudio Castro was an advisor at the Legislative Assembly. He joined the political group, started going Italicão, said he's going to be our candidate, and he ran as a candidate. Then he declared 0 assets. And today we know that he lives in a mansion worth more than 5 million reais, which is a duplex penthouse in Rio de Janeiro. Where does all that money come from? Flávio demanding millions from Daniel Moca. So it's a mockery. It's a total disgrace. And the mafia is big and dangerous. Look here, bugs are found in the office of the governor of Rio de Janeiro. This one, he is appellate judge on the Rio de Janeiro Court of Justice. Since Claudio Castro was removed from office and became ineligible, and he didn't have a vice governor because he appointed his vice as a counselor to the Court of Auditors, the position was left vacant. And since the person who would replace him would be the state representative, president of the Legislative Assembly, Rodrigo Bacelar, who was arrested for involvement with the Red Command and who is from the same political group as Claudio Castro and Flávio Bolsonaro, was arrested. The next in the line of succession, there was no vice governor and no president of the Legislative Assembly. So the one who took over was the president of the Court of Justice, Ricardo Couto. The one I just showed you. He is there as the governor of the state of Rio de Janeiro. They found a bug in his office. It's this mafia, this criminal organization with ties to the Red Command that's involved with all these political groups from the PL. It's all from the PL, from Claudio Castro and everything else. It's a mafia. They're probably bugging the place to find out what he's doing because he's conducting a thorough investigation into the government of Rio de Janeiro. The walls are closing in. They're uncovering fraud in bidding, theft, embezzlement, corruption, excessive charges, a series of crimes committed by this criminal organization. Everything is ending up with the federal police. A wiretap was found in his office. Who do you think put it there? That criminal organization. So they're really dangerous. And Flávio now trying to act like a champion of justice and morality, saying he's fighting the Red Command, blah. He forgot to mention the militia, right? We can't forget that. He forgot to ask for the militia to also be labeled as terrorists. He forgot about the militia. But to say that he's fighting criminal organizations while he's in an environment with several connections, friendships, and close access to people who are either already in jail or will soon be arrested for involvement with the Red Command. That doesn't work, Flávio. That really doesn't work. The classification of PCC and Comando Vermelho as terrorists was rejected in the Senate without any resistance from Flávio Bolsonaro. Now a presidential candidate for the PL, the senator asked Trump to include the factions on the terrorism list. The federal Senate and the Chamber of Deputies at the end of the year, with this possibility, with all this talk from the Trump administration, which was very likely to classify criminal organizations from Brazil as terrorists. They even created and approved a bill rejecting the classification of the Red Command and criminal factions as terrorists. They rejected that. The House of Representatives and the Senate rejected it. Even Flávio Bolsonaro rejected it. Flávio, he didn't go there and say, no, let's do it. No, he also rejected it. He didn't do it, he rejected it. Now he's saying he's in favor. It's because he wants to cover up his own scandal. So he's putting up this smokescreen. At the same time as this, the National Congress approved harsher and longer sentences for anyone caught and proven to be part of a criminal organization. Flávio, this law will catch you, where they will have longer sentences, even longer than those who commit terrorism in Brazil. I've already explained to you why that is, because there are no terrorists in Brazil. But criminal organizations are in many places, including in the National Congress. Especially in Rio de Janeiro, São Paulo, and Brasília Federal District. And that's what they want. They want to cover up their involvement by raising a smokescreen and see if they can get away with it somehow by making the federal police more vulnerable and with less power. Because as I explained to you, with this situation, the arrangements and the agreement and cooperation between the federal police and the FBI fall apart. Because the FBI leaves and the CIA comes in, and the CIA doesn't communicate with anyone. They don't share information with anyone except for the American Armed Forces. That's where the military issue comes in. where we could even be invaded, bombed, with the justification from the United States that it's a terrorist group and no one will be able to do anything. If we had to bomb, we more or less know where we would have to bomb. But you can be sure it won't be there. If anyone gets hurt, it will most likely be innocent people. Because the people in suits and ties are in positions of power, as senators, as congressmen, as governors. And Mr. Donald Tranquera has no real commitment to actually fighting this. He wants to use this to seize and steal our wealth and put the government in a tight spot. That's what he wants. And the Bolsonaro supporters help, especially Flávio and Eduardo Bolsonaro, who are desperate not to get caught. That's the situation. Oh, there are so many things I'm going to tell you, you know? Look here. Accused and arrested for connection with the Comando Vermelho. This first one here is T.H. Joyas. Okay, former state representative. The one indicated by the arrow is a former state representative who was recently arrested. He is Rodrigo Bacelar. He was the president of the Legislative Assembly of Rio de Janeiro. He is also under arrest, and the suspicion is a connection with the Comando Vermelho. And these people are from the same political group as Flávio Bolsonaro. Do you understand? So like then you might say, Andre, this isn't fake news. No, do your own research. Type in T.H. Joyas, Rodrigo Bacelar. You'll see that they're in jail. Then you'll find out why they're in jail. I'm telling you why they're in jail. Notably for involvement with the Comando Vermelho. Former state representatives, you can look it up and see they're from the same political group as Flávio Bolsonaro. And if you search for videos, click on videos in your Google search, you'll see videos of Flávio Bolsonaro with Rodrigo Bacelar and with T.H. Joyas. You just have to look it up. And they're from the same political group, just like the former governor of Rio de Janeiro, who was removed from office and is ineligible, Claudio Castro. He's also under investigation. I don't even know why he hasn't been arrested yet. And then you come and tell me that Flávio wants to fight organized crime in Brazil? He just wants a smokescreen. He claims to champion justice, saying the only good criminal is a dead criminal, yet he's the criminal himself. Let's look at a few statements and comments. Don't forget to like the live stream, okay?
The Bolsonaro family shows more and more that they are traitors to the country, celebrating U.S. interference in Brazil. They neither respect nor want national sovereignty respected. They can call it whatever they want. Terrorism, mafia, gang, crime is crime and it must be fought. And the one making the most effort to fight organized crime in Brazil is President Lula's government, with operations that target the criminals' financial network. The upper echelon, the ones who support criminality in the territories. That's what we saw yesterday in Operation Carbono Oculto 2, which uncovered the PCC's schemes with the financial and business system for money laundering. Doing it without demagoguery, without lies, and without saluting other people's flags. We already have the anti-gang law. Now we need to finish approving the Public Security Constitutional Amendment, which is in the Senate. It strengthens the public security system in Brazil and the fight against these gangs, without leaving ourselves vulnerable to foreign interests. Our resources like oil, land, rare waters, the Amazon, our water. This move by the United States is not against crime. It's against our sovereignty, and it's being encouraged by the interests of the Bolsonaro family. There are about 20 sellouts. Brazil cannot bow to this. Once again, the Bolsonaro family shows that they are traitors to the country.
Flávio Bolsonaro, traitor to the country. Eduardo Bolsonaro, traitor to the country. Write it down, neither the father nor the son. Bolsonaro never again. And if we manage to bring to light what's behind all of this, Flávio's political damage will be much greater. And the risk of Lula winning in the first round will be even greater. Let's see here, Congressman Lindenberg Farias, he also talked about this here. Let's see what he says.
Flávio Bolsonaro wants to shield himself from an investigation and from international cooperation regarding transnational money laundering. That would follow the money trail from Volcaro, which went to the Ravengate Fund managed by Eduardo Bolsonaro. Prosecutor Lincoln Gaia, who is on the PCC's hit list, is a public prosecutor from Sao Paulo. He made a statement saying that from now on, international cooperation will become more difficult. He said that cooperation is a daily occurrence, instantaneous between Brazilian police agencies, the FBI, and the DEA. If these Brazilian organizations are classified as terrorists, everything changes. The FBI leaves, the DEA leaves, and international cooperation ends. And then the CIA comes in, military issues come in, and extraterritorial laws come into play, which give the United States the power to act unilaterally. So this daily routine cooperation comes to an end. Then I ask you, what about the expensive flight? Do you remember that REAG, which is involved with the expensive flight in Operation Hidden Carbon, was moving money for the PCC? It's all the same thing. And this money that fueled the scheme of the Beagle Boys, the Bolsonaro brothers, was this money, 61 million that went to the Ravengate Fund in the United States in Texas for Eduardo Bolsonaro to support himself and finance that campaign against Brazil, tariffs, sanctions. They want to make it harder to trace where this money went. So, in addition to all the irresponsibility of attacking national sovereignty, of leaving matters vulnerable,
national security issues, of harming the economy, you can be sure that they are trying to shield themselves. Flávio Bolsonaro wants to shield himself.
Exactly that. And Donald Trump, whether he knows it or not, he's shielding a criminal. Actually, he's not shielding anyone because he won't be able to. He won't even be able to shield Eduardo Bolsonaro. I believe that Alexandre de Moraes should schedule in the next few days the trial of Eduardo Bolsonaro, who will definitely get more than 8 years in prison for the crime of coercion in the course of legal proceedings. We're even waiting for a response from the Prosecutor General's office. You know that Minister Alexandre de Moraes ordered the Prosecutor General's office to respond about including Bolsonaro, and especially Eduardo and Flávio Bolsonaro. In the police investigation, which has already moved into court proceedings regarding Eduardo Bolsonaro for coercion in the course of legal proceedings, where other crimes may even be included, because today it is known that Eduardo Bolsonaro is very likely in the United States and went there because he was granted millions and millions of reais by Daniel Borges. Isn't that right? The money was said to be for a movie, but where's the proof? What we know is that the money went to a company, to a fund managed by Eduardo's lawyer, who is responsible for it, there in Texas, exactly in the $6 million house where Eduardo Bolsonaro lives. So yes, what was requested, including by Congressman Lindenberg Farias, was to include in the investigation of Flávio Bolsonaro these crimes that are being committed by Eduardo Bolsonaro there in the United States, where they found the source of the funding. And if the Prosecutor General gives a positive signal to Alexandre de Moraes, giving the green light, Alexandre de Moraes will take the lead in this situation. And Flávio Bolsonaro will soon be wearing an ankle monitor at the very least. But for that to happen, the Prosecutor General has to give a positive signal so that Alexandre de Moraes can act. Otherwise, he won't. And we are waiting for that statement. If it doesn't come out today, which it still might, if it doesn't come out today, I believe it will be released by Monday or Tuesday at the latest. And it will be very important because if the Prosecutor General gives a positive signal, it could turn this whole situation around. Because Minister Alexandre de Moraes is the assigned judge. What does that mean? He is the first judge who started working on this situation. and he is therefore the one with jurisdiction to continue leading this entire investigation and the subsequent process. Since Eduardo Bolsonaro's case is already far along and is nearing closing arguments, and then it will go to the final judgment session, which should be scheduled, if not today, then next week. Let's see and let's wait to find out what will happen in this situation, the Prosecutor General's position, which will be very important. Let's see a few more statements here and try to understand a little bit of everything that's happening, what's behind all of this.
Meanwhile, you can even support Flávio Bolsonaro, but you need to understand who this guy is. That the election of this guy is a danger to this nation. And why is he a danger to this nation? Because his behavior is like that of a pickpocket, yes. And I repeat, and I'm not afraid of any lawsuit. None. The Liberal Party has already filed a lawsuit to try to take down my videos where I expose Flávio. They lost the case. They lost the case. Brother, what Flávio Bolsonaro did in the federal hospitals is still going to leak. PT is still going to use that. In the federal hospitals of Rio de Janeiro when his father was the president, brother.
Are you talking about the pandemic?
No, during the whole period.
The one in charge was Flávio Bolsonaro. You can even support Flávio Bolsonaro.
Yeah, and look, Antonio de Paula is not left-wing, no. Antonio de Paula is right-wing. And he's from Rio de Janeiro. And he says that everyone knows in Rio de Janeiro, wherever Flávio Bolsonaro is, there's a scheme. There's a scheme involving organized crime and militia groups. And now you come to tell me that Flávio wants to fight criminal organizations together with Trump. No, he's trying to create a smokescreen to see if there are any positive attention to try to bring Lula down. That's what he wants, but he won't succeed. Because people accept a lot of things, guys. But attacking our sovereignty, our freedom, no one is going to accept that. No one will agree to this, not with this situation. They won't. Should we watch the video? I mentioned it, right? Flávio Bolsonaro with T.H. Joyas, who is one of the leaders of the Red Command, and also with Rodrigo Bacelar, who also works with the Red Command. Both of them are in prison. Both of them are friends of Flávio Bolsonaro's political group in Rio de Janeiro, state representatives, former state representatives who are in prison. Look at one little clip here, because there are several videos. There are several situations that show Flávio Bolsonaro's close relationship with people directly connected to the Red Command who are even in prison. The two who are going to appear here in this video are already in prison. Friends, buddies, companions of the one who claims to want to fight the Red Command. But if the Red Command is with him, that makes it hard.
Look at these images. They were shot on a cell phone while the militiaman Flávio Bolsonaro was meeting with two members of the Red Command. The man in the black jacket is the criminal T.H. Joyas, who is currently imprisoned in the federal penitentiary of Brasilia. The one in the black polo shirt is the criminal Rodrigo Bacelar, who is currently imprisoned in Bangu 8 Penitentiary in Rio de Janeiro. Two dangerous criminals in Flávio Bolsonaro's inner circle. This is the real Flávio Bolsonaro, a criminal of the worst kind who is trying to turn all of Brazil into a slum controlled by organized crime. Brazil is facing one of the greatest risks in its history, with a gangster trying to become president of the republic.
Yeah, if Flávio isn't a criminal himself, he sure likes to hang out with criminals. He really likes to make alliances with criminals and to be around criminals. Yeah. Inclusive, in fact, there were statements about the issue of the former governor of Rio de Janeiro, an ally of Flávio Bolsonaro, who will soon be an inmate. Have no doubt about that. Let's take a look at some statements about this shamelessness, to put it mildly.
I don't even know what to say anymore. Look at this news. The PL is considering Carlos Jordi and Sócines Cavalcante to replace Claudio Castro in the Senate race. But it was Jordi and Sosthenes who were targeted in an operation where Sosthenes had more than 400,000 reais inside his closet. This is a disgrace. So does that mean they're going to swap the money in the backpack in Claudio Castro's elevator for the cash in Sosthenes Cavalcante's closet? Look, this PL needs to be held accountable. It's a criminal organization. This is a disgrace.
This is outrageous, guys. The guy is going to earn almost 40,000 reasons salary from the PL, and soon he'll be a prisoner. Then the PL people say, oh, the only good criminal is a dead criminal. Take the damn bomb away. That's how they treat the criminal. They cover up for the criminal, pay the criminal's salary, party with the criminal, take money from the criminal, call the criminal, meet with the criminal, kiss the criminal, call the criminal their dear brother. What the hell is this, people? For God's sake. Good grief, people. What is this? Look at that other guy's snout.
I sent you the audio here so you can listen calmly. We're facing one of our hardest times. I don't know what will happen next or how this will end, but it's in God's hands now. And you too, I know you're going through a really tough time there as well, all this mess, right? So you don't really know exactly how all of this is going to go. Although you gave us permission to follow up, Daniel, I still feel awkward doing it. We're just at a critical point with the film. And since there are a lot of payments overdue, man, everyone is tense, and I'm worried about the opposite of what we hoped for with the film, you know? Imagine us defaulting on Jim Caviezel, on Cyrus, these guys who are really renowned in American and world cinema. Man, that would be really bad, right? All the positive impact we're sure will come with this film could end up being just a fraction of what it could be, man. So if you could give me a heads up, some kind of update, because we need to know what to do, man, with life, because there are already a lot of bills to pay this month and next month too. We're in the final stretch, so we can't slip up or miss our commitments, or we lose everything. It's all in the contract. We risk losing the actor, director, crew, everything. Can you give me a heads up? Sorry for the long audio. Big hug. God bless you, man.
It's this one. This is the one who wants to fight organized crime. And look, they had already received more than 60 million reais. Where did they put that money? Andre says it was for the movie. The movie didn't have any money. He just said there was no money for the movie. We know that the money went to the company owned by Carlos, Eduardo Bolsonaro's lawyer in Texas. Where did the money go after that? What kind of power did Flávio have to demand millions from Daniel Volcaro? A total of 134 million reais. And now this scammer wants to say that he wants to fight organized crime? Do you believe that? Let me tell you something. If you believe that, the problem is with you. The problem isn't even with them. It's because of people like you that there are scammers like Flávio Bolsonaro and Eduardo Bolsonaro.
Attention, attention. Share this video as much as you can. Claudio Castro is expected to announce his withdrawal from the federal Senate race this Thursday. This is because Flávio Bolsonaro's campaign asked him to do so, since he was simply causing Flávio's candidacy to lose support in Rio de Janeiro. Now, it's important that we don't forget that Claudio Castro is only withdrawing his candidacy at the request of Flávio Bolsonaro, because the federal police exposed Claudio Castro's gang and is showing all of Rio de Janeiro that he is the leader of this gang. If that hadn't happened, Flávio Bolsonaro would still be supporting the corruption in Rio de Janeiro, because he would be backing Claudio Castro's gang in Rio de Janeiro. And yes, he is still supporting Flávio Bolsonaro because now he is backing Douglas Ruas, who is simply the third head in this three-headed monster of corruption. The first head was Wilson Witzel, then Claudio Castro, and now Douglas Ruas. Obviously, this monster that destroyed Rio de Janeiro with corruption is supported by Flávio Bolsonaro, the Bolsonaro family. Flávio has always been involved in all these governments, and obviously he is a co-participant in all the stealing. If he didn't steal, because I can't prove it, I can say that he was complicit with all the stealing here in Rio de Janeiro. So please don't forget, because they're going to try to cover it up by withdrawing Claudio Castro's candidacy, but we're not fools, okay? Listen up, share this.
And one more thing, right? We don't accept being treated like kids. That's what the Bolsonaro supporters do. Flávio Bolsonaro, Eduardo Bolsonaro, and Donald Tranqueira. I've got Lula's statement from a little while ago here. We don't accept being treated like kids.
We don't accept being treated like kids. We don't accept being treated like we're some banana republic. I spent 3 hours with President Trump. 3 hours with him. I handed him 4 documents. One of them was about fighting organized crime. Mr. Marco Rubio was not there. Possibly because he was prepared to help. Son of a Bolsonaro supporter who is running in the election here in this country, who has no shame of betraying our homeland, of going to the United States and asking for American intervention in Brazil. What a traitor. And even Joaquim Silverio do Reis would be ashamed if there had to be a presidential candidate who goes to the United States to ask for American intervention in Brazil. If he went to ask for intervention to catch militiamen, they would be locked up there. We don't accept it.
That was a good one. If he had gone to ask for intervention against militiamen, Flávio Bolsonaro would have been locked up there in the United States and wouldn't even have left. The thing is, Trump wants other things, right? Trump wants our riches. That's what he wants. He's also using all of this as a smokescreen to see if he can blackmail the government, to see if he can get access to our riches, because that's what he wants. Nothing more, nothing less than that. And he uses the Bolsonarists, traitors to the nation, to lobby, to push, to create the whole situation, to see if he can get what they want. That's the situation.
The situation has to be faced as a wartime negotiation where we are not in normal conditions. We are not in a position to demand anything from the Trump administration. He will do whatever he wants, regardless of our wishes. It's up to us to take responsibility to prevent 2 atomic bombs from falling here in Brazil, so that later we can announce that we are going to grant amnesty, so that later we can announce it, which I think is a second thing he will also want to put on the negotiating table, his bargaining chip, which is the issue of freedom of expression on social media. And do you know what other factors he will also put on the table about the intelligence report from the security forces of Rio de Janeiro?
What the hell is this, guys? Trump is not going to grant amnesty to anyone here, no. He won't. What kind of craziness is this? What was the other thing he mentioned here? Freedom on social media. The Brazilian justice system will not accept a free-for-all on social media. It won't, and it won't be Donald Trump who decides that, no. Not here in this country. It won't be allowed. A free-for-all on social media in Brazil won't be allowed. Homicide, suicide, pedophilia, rape, they won't be allowed. And Donald Trump won't be in charge here. Look at what a doormat this guy is. Does this guy want to be president? A doormat like that? Amnesty. There won't be any amnesty. Not at all. Where's the sentencing, you guys? Regarding the sentencing, exactly what I said would happen happened. It would be suspended until the analysis of the DI. And a DI can take 5-10 years to be judged. Is your sentencing buried there in the federal Supreme Court? You are ridiculous. But he's still here, the vassal. Put it there, vassal of the scoundrel. Who? Flávio Rachadinha?
The one who went to Washington, I was the one who did that. They brought me the intelligence report, which is classified as confidential, right? So I couldn't make it public. I officially sent it myself to
the United States Embassy and to the White House. We reached Marco Rubio directly.
Then, my friends, that day will be wonderful.
Perfect. If there's a scorched earth scenario, at least I'll be avenged against those robe-wearing dictators. If there's a scorched earth scenario, at least I'll be avenged. This situation has to be faced.
The Bolsonaro family is a bunch of cowards. Vassals, American bootlickers, that's what they are. And they're doing all this, right, not to fight any criminal organization, since they're at the core of the criminal organizations. They're doing this to create a smokescreen to cover up their crimes and criminal connections. Yeah, meanwhile, there's sweet talk in the crowd. Take the hit and let's go. Criminal dies, dead criminal. Meanwhile, they are the real leaders of the criminal organization, the real criminals. It's a shame. And the worst part is those who believe in this shameless person. That's the situation. There's no other explanation. Can you tell me how much you would pay for a whiskey? This is a criminal organization. 5 million on whiskey tasting over there in the United States, in New York. Who paid? The criminal organization. The same criminal organization. This is a criminal organization, totally different from terrorism. 6 million reais is the price of the mansion where Eduardo Bolsonaro lives. And when he moved there, I showed you the video this week, he said he lived in a room and had an inflatable mattress, but that everything was fine. And today we know that he lives in a 6 million real mansion. And if it's not his, he's paying 30,000 in rent. Just for rent. It's millions here, millions there from every side with Daniel Boccaro's Mafia, where they use the film based on Bolsonaro's story to launder money, to pay bribes. And you come to tell me that these people want to fight organized crime? If they themselves are organized crime in this country, there's no way, folks. There's no way you can fight what you are. There's no way. But of course, the herd, I don't know why. Maybe because it resonated with your hatred, your misogyny, your machismo, your transphobia. It resonated with Bolsonarism. They believe anything. Then it mixes in the religious fundamentalism that controls and restrains people. Then they can say whatever they want because they believe it. No matter how absurd the situations are, because they are, how is the criminal organization going to fight the criminal organization if they're in there? The problem in Brazil is a lack of political awareness. It's madness of this Bolsonarism that mixes God, country, and family. And there's nothing godly about it. They don't defend the family either, since they were against the 6-on, 1-off schedule. Country? They were never patriots. A patriot wouldn't act like that. So it's a shame. Write that down. It's a shame. It's a mockery. But I strongly believe that all of this will result in benefits for Lula and in shame for the Bolsonaro supporters. And it's neither the father nor the son, Bolsonaro never again. It's Lula for the 4th time. And justice will be served no matter who it hurts. All right?